The younger fans of Robocop may not know this, but in 2001 there was a 4-part miniseries on the Sci Fi channel called Robocop Prime Directives. It's a largely forgotten about piece of media, but there's a good number of older fans who tuned into the premiere of this, myself included, and you can actually watch the entire 6-hour series here on YouTube. Since I've been talking about the Robocop sequels lately, I wanted to go back and see how this experiment holds up today. I remember liking it a lot when it aired, but then seeing it again in the late 2000s and thinking it was terrible. What about it made me change my mind? Was I too hard on it? Is there something to appreciate now that I'm older and my understanding of Robocop has deepened? Join me as I take us through each episode, scene by scene, talking about what works and what doesn't. I'm Under the Mayo, and this is Robocop Prime Directives. Episode 1, Dark Justice. We open with a media break segment, just like the original did, this time called MediaNet. Here we are introduced to the villain, Bone Machine, a terrorist wreaking havoc around the city. And I just gotta punch in here to note that within 5 seconds of talking about him, there's already an ad on the screen where you can buy an official Bone Machine action figure. They are going super cynical future right away. OCP spokeswoman Sarah Cable is shown saying that these acts of violence are in no way representative of the state of Delta City. We also learn that Delta City Security has just unveiled a new zero fatality policy that prohibits the use of lethal force in the apprehension of criminal suspects. Oh, and guess what? It's Robocop's 10th birthday. As a series set 10 years after Robocop 1, ignoring all the sequels and the Canadian TV show, Prime Directives is a fresh start for the setting and the character. Here, OCP is throwing a party to celebrate his legacy as a defender of the public and enforcer of the law. And MediaNet shows a hilarious montage of Robocop's most insane and outlandish moments over the years, being sold to the public as a home video collection. I absolutely love this.
The Delta City Citizen, direct from OCP Entertainment Technology. Own a part of history as the man of steel takes care of business his way. Shocking, thought-provoking, highly entertaining. You bet. Get yours today.
We cut to a hostage situation by a group that calls themselves Da Bombs at the Chelsea Clinton Savings and Loan Bank. Criminals shooting automatic weapons at the cops outside. We meet Sandra Smiles, a representative of the OCP Legal Affairs Division, as she tries to take control of the situation. Right away, the series is advertising how silly it's gonna be. We've already seen the greatest hits of Robocop home video, and now we have a gang leader calling one of his buddies Napalm Joe.
Napalm Joe, you get out there and show them we are serious.
Let this set the tone for a lot of the show. It's ridiculous, you just gotta embrace the fun of it all if you're gonna get any enjoyment out of it. Poor Napalm Joe doesn't take out anyone in his sacrifice, and several more thugs are wired up to blow. The cops want to go in and shoot the bad guys, but Sandra says that's a violation of OCP policy, no lethal force. Until the man, John Cable, takes charge. As commander of Delta City Security, he gives the criminals 2 minutes to state their demands and shows Sandra who's boss. His plan to run in with flashbangs and a backup of shotgunners is shut down quickly because OCP has suspended lethal ammunition, and Cable didn't know about this. Probably should have notified the higher-ups of this new policy. All they have is pepper spray, tasers, and rubber bullets to take on armed terrorists with bombs strapped to their chest. The leader sends out his next sacrifice, Nitro, of course his name is Nitro, and Cable tries to take him out with his dual pistols, but the explosion still goes off. And out steps Robocop, here to help. Robo sees Cable and his offer to help is rejected. We're immediately presented with some kind of flashback, a young Cable being held hostage with a gun to his head. Does Robocop know this guy from before? You can hear some musical themes that draw from the original film when he remembers something. That's a nice touch. Sandra knows Robocop is a problem for the new OCP policy. She tells him, "Don't you kill anybody, Robocop. Don't you do it."
Officer, no unnecessary violence. Just because you have ammunition doesn't mean you can use it. Damn it.
And if you're a real Robocop fan, you'll probably notice that the actor in the suit, Paige Fletcher, known for his TV series The Hitchhiker, as well as many small appearances in other things. He was in an episode of Earth Final Conflict, a couple episodes of Kung Fu The Legend Continues. He's really not bad as Robocop. He's got the movements down more or less. He's obviously taking the role very seriously. He does his best impression of Weller's mechanical performance. His posture is dead on at times. And his scowl is really good. For a TV miniseries of Robocop, Mr. Page does an admirable job in the suit. After headshotting the guy in the window, Sarah says, "We're sending someone in to negotiate." Yeah, negotiate, right. He pushes in the doors in a laughably cheap effect. They were obviously prepared to fall, and then they just bounce around like they're made of plastic. It looks terrible. And then John Cable just fucks off, cause he's like, "You don't need us anymore." Robocop confronts the gang, and suddenly Bone Machine bursts in, stealing all the attention. He looks like Shao Kahn with guns on his arm. What a nightmare that would be. Shao Kahn does not need to be a zoner. Robocop disables one of his weapons with a precision shot and tries to get the hostages out.
Please vacate the premises immediately.
Bone Machine fires his other arm at Robo, shots bouncing off, but then fires a grenade into his chest, launching Robo through the glass, in a scene that looks way better than when he got hit in the chest in Robocop 3. Mr. Gang Leader empties his guns into Bone Machine, but it has no effect. Sarah's still trying to negotiate on the bullhorn, and Robo is too messed up to pursue. Bone Machine gets away. All the terrorists are dead or arrested. As the scene ends, we see another flashback of young Cable saying, "What are you prepared to do?" We see the new OCP headquarters in a bad CGI building, but hey, keep in mind it's 2001 Sci Fi Channel budget. We can shrug it off. They're showing company ads on giant screens, stacks of $1 bills. Oh wow, what a fortune. This ad shows us that at this point, OCP makes basically everything people use and consume in their daily lives. Food, cars, homes, devices, it's all them. But we fade to a boardroom meeting that reveals OCP is actually in a horrible financial situation.
The privatization of Delta City is more than $700 billion over budget.
You think that's a big enough number? $700 billion? For a company that took one city private? Ridiculous, man, just ridiculous. Well, yeah, they do a lot more than just run Delta City. They're involved in space travel, military hardware, all kinds of stuff. But apparently they're absolutely terrible at it. So they need some new ideas to help the company save money and pay off their $700 billion of debt. But our next character, Damien Lowe, may just have the perfect idea. And we see that when Damien speaks, OCP executive Sarah Cable is not exactly thrilled to see it. So this is the ex-wife of Delta City Security Commander John Cable. Damien speaks of the Asians' progress in cybernetics and AI, and how OCP is far behind. A nice nod to Robocop 3's Kanemitsu Corporation and their robot ninjas. As he speaks, our focus is drawn to another executive looking on curiously. We'll soon find out who he is. Damien reveals his plan for OCP's salvation on these rotating boards he already had set up for the meeting that I guess no one questioned. His proposal is a program with the most convoluted name ever, SAINT, Sentient Artificial Intelligence Neural Net Terminus. It's like they knew they wanted to call it SAINT and just gave up at the end when creating the acronym. And he's gonna sell it to the board with a terrible cartoon.
Imagine the possibilities. A computer capable of thinking for itself. A computer capable of not only automating the day-to-day activities of this building, but one that can monitor the people at work within it.
So an AI that monitors and controls everything in the OCP building, and eventually every home and business in Delta City. Sarah Cable is not impressed. Officially, OCP is not interested, but Damien says his department has already built a prototype and they'll be able to run a demonstration in 10 days. This impresses the board, so I guess they're gonna give it a shot, without any other details of how this actually works. Just let an untested, mysterious AI take over the building in 10 days from now. Sure, what could go wrong? Damien tells Sarah to choke on it.
Choke on it.
We move to Precinct 1 and get our first shot of Robocop without the mask. The face makeup is obviously inferior to the original, you don't get the skin overlapping the headpiece, but it's fine for the budget they had, I guess. We're watching Robocop get worked on by his doctor, and she mentions that the repairs he needs require parts that are on back order and won't be here for a few weeks. This is an aspect I like a lot, Robocop as an out-of-date concept, the world moving on and leaving him behind. I think that would make an amazing movie now, instead of trying to reboot and remake the original concept. That's basically what we get here, an old Robocop fighting against a new world. Paige Fletcher doesn't look like Peter Weller, he looks like himself, so you just gotta get over the difference. But as Alex Murphy, I think he sells it. There's a melancholy in his face that reflects the character's loneliness. He's probably the best thing about the series.
When they first made me, when they brought me back, I thought that it was for some reason.
This is the Alex Murphy I always wanted to see in the official Robocop sequels. At the end of Robocop 1, we got to see the return of the man Alex Murphy, learning who he was and smiling at the end of the movie as he says his name. The man was embarking on an emotional journey, but the sequels don't follow that path. They keep him fairly cold, repressed, only sporadically showing emotions like when he bonds with the orphan child in Robocop 3, which is a nice scene in an otherwise bad movie. Here in Prime Directives, this is Robocop after 10 whole years. It is now basically Alex Murphy, the man, trapped in his cage of armor, feeling his age, feeling his isolation, his sadness. It's well done. He's contemplating his own existence, his purpose, and I love every bit of it. He talks about how they keep him hidden away so the public can't get near him, but now he feels forgotten and insignificant. The lighting and color scheme of this scene is also great. It's ugly and depressing feeling. Definitely sells the tone they're going for. This is the best stuff in the show. Cherish these moments. Back at OCP, Damien heads down to the lab to tell his technician Edwin that Saint has been greenlit. Getting it ready in 10 days is a big problem, but Damien insists. Banana. Edwin's gonna get the job done, and we learn they have a decade-long history of working together. Up in the executive bathroom, Damien's bragging about Saint and how he's gonna be the new top dog in the company after this. In walks our other company man from the meeting, and the urinal greets him with executive urination.
Executive urination.
Down peak judgment.
You gotta wonder what the hell that setting is. Jokes like that help this series out greatly. Oh my god, look at that voice recorder. Why does it need that massive antenna? Our new guy is a fresh graduate in the executive training program, and his name?
It's Murphy. James Murphy.
That's right, Robocop's son is a main character in Robocop Prime Directives. In Murphy Jr.'s office, he gets a cryptic message from an untraceable source. There are two types of people, those who truly listen and those who wait to speak. Be aware of new allies and new enemies. On his way out, we see Sarah is a bit flirty with him. In the elevator, she lets it be known that his quick rise to executive level is very suspicious. She wants to know what he did to get here. We learn that his drive to further company interests comes from the fact that he grew up in an OCP orphanage after his parents died. Sarah seems to be trying to get Murphy Jr. on her side to go against Damien, suggesting that some policies at OCP might be damaging to the company, and he should really stand up against them. Back in the lab, Robo is trying to figure out where Bone Machine got his weaponry, since they definitely aren't regular firearms, and he's able to identify an OCP logo on some of the tubing. Time to go get him. Man, when he has the helmet on and he has that determined face, he really sells it. However, Paige's interpretation of Robocop has him always scowling or kind of frowning, so even in calm moments, he looks like he's about to explode with anger or something, and it comes across kind of funny. He heads up to report his findings to Commander John Cable, and we're treated to some more of the flashback sequence, still not the whole story. Cable is in his office playing chess, and he's got a photo of him and Murphy on the wall. They must have been close, but he's not happy to see Robo. Cable gets to see that Bone Machine is using OCP equipment, and he deduces that it must be a cop taking the law into his own hands. Robo and Commander Cable talk a bit about the chess game on the desk, and when the scene ends, we get a flashback to Murphy and Cable playing chess in the locker room, hearing the difference in their approach. Cable taking his time to plan his next move carefully, setting up one of his units to take a sacrifice and bait his opponent, while Murphy acts quickly, without hesitation, and he falls right into Cable's trap. I have a feeling this is going to come up later.
In the end, it all comes down to what you're prepared to do to win.
Cable, thinking about his past, pulls up Murphy's record, and he notices a classified section and becomes very curious. Surprisingly, he doesn't have access, even though he's the head of Delta City Security. It is odd as a fan to see that someone like Cable doesn't know Robocop's true identity, because in the sequels, so many people know who he is. But in this world, the sequels didn't happen, so outside of Lewis and people in the company, the knowledge that Robocop is Alex Murphy apparently isn't widespread. MediaNet break. The Alamo was blown up by terrorists avenging Santa Ana 200 years ago, and the leader of Da Bombs from the bank heist, a guy named Malcolm Explosion, is filing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Delta City Security for his injuries. And I love how there's all these pop-ups on screen. Make your own explosives, follow Malcolm Explosion's website here. And then he blows himself up in front of the courthouse. Brilliant. We have a new crime scene, Bone Machine shot up a bunch of drug dealers, and now Robocop is on the scene. Another flashback to Murphy frequenting the donut shop here, and the cops are all talking about the Motor City Mangler, who mutilates his victims after death. Murphy and Cable talk about the upcoming OCP acquisition of the police department. Murphy thinks it might actually be a good thing. Cable talks about how his wife is working her way up the company, but he doesn't trust them. He's in a bad mood too. He lets it out that Sarah is going through with the divorce because she doesn't want to be a cop's wife as she enters this new corporate life. A call comes in for a neighborhood complaint on a possible rabid dog, and this kind of stuff is another thing I kinda like about this series. Spending time with Murphy doing regular police work. It's mundane stuff, but if you care about this character, it's pretty cool to see how he was working with his old partner before he transferred. However, I don't think the character is quite right. This Murphy is shown to be hesitant, a little afraid, not the confident go-get-em Murphy of the first film. The house is locked, so they just hop over the fence to check out the dog. I don't think that's legal, but what do I know? Oh my god, the dog is chewing on human remains. Murphy worries they need a warrant, and Cable dismisses it, saying there could be someone trapped inside. They break into the basement and find an assortment of torture devices. Blood is everywhere, and there's a freezer full of body parts. They free a kidnapped woman from another one of the freezers, and Cable goes upstairs to check out the house. And what's funny is Cable says one of Murphy's lines.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Maybe that's where he got it from. Cable gets taken by the killer, the Motor City Mangler, and Cable wants Murphy to shoot him, but Murphy doesn't. He instead puts his gun down, and when the killer goes to shoot Murphy, Cable slips out and knocks him against the wall. Then Cable shoots him in cold blood, showing us just how brutal this character can be, and Murphy is shocked by it. Cable says, "You were right about the warrant." So he killed him so he couldn't get away on a technicality. Back in our time, Murphy Jr. gets an email invitation for a secret meeting with Sarah Cable, down in what she calls the Tombs. We see rows and rows of boxes holding all of OCP's failures, like a Google graveyard of sorts. She's got a plan to take control of the company and inject it with new blood. A bunch of young OCP workers step out of the shadows in a corny comic book scene, and Murphy Jr. seems happy to join the family. At Precinct 1, Cable is still staring at his computer screen, now printing up the weaponry that matches Bone Machine's, but he can't get past security to see more. The man has access to nothing, and now Murphy Jr. and Cable meet, but they already know each other, it's just been many years. He's here as the new head of security concepts, and he's gonna let Cable know that he's not gonna take any crap. Robocop walks into the office, and Murphy Jr. looks at him, but he doesn't react much, so he doesn't know this is his dad. And then we see what's possibly the main issue with the casting of Robocop. He's a little too short. You could solve this with proper blocking and camera techniques, but when you flatly put him up against significantly taller actors, it destroys the hugeness of the character, literally and figuratively, and now he just looks kind of funny. In the lab, Robo talks with his doctor about what just happened, that he didn't know what to say to his son, and then he just gets left in the dark for the rest of the night. They don't shut him down manually or something, they just turn off the lights and let him sit there alone. No wonder the guy is depressed. Upstairs at OCP, Cable is waiting for Sarah in her office, all mysterious-like in her chair facing away. He's here to ask about the illegal combat gear that Bone Machine is using, and complains that he doesn't have access to OCP security files. And Sarah says maybe she can help him out, but she's being really cold and villainous in how she speaks. I wouldn't trust her.
Nice office. Could probably use a woman's touch, though.
Damn, nice, Cable. Sarah expresses her concerns to Murphy Jr. that Cable is meddling in OCP business. Murphy Jr. says he'll do what he can to get rid of him. And knowing that Cable and his father work together, he asks if Sarah knew him. She says no, and Murphy Jr. said he didn't either. Which I guess is true, because he was a kid when his father died, but he was definitely old enough to somewhat know him. Damien and Edwin are working downstairs on Saint, and Damien is freaking out about Sarah. He knows she's gonna screw him. A sleeping Robo is having dreams in his dark dungeon, and the doctor catches a random technician coming out of Robo's room, but he gets away. Robo has no recollection of him being in the room, and the doctor asks how he's feeling today. A systems check shows him to be working just fine, except he's got a new directive: terminate John Cable. He barges out of the building and hits the road. It just so happens that Cable calls up Robo while he's on the road and tells him to meet him at the Security Concepts bunker because there's something he needs to see. Robo agrees. The bunker itself is a really cheap set. You'd imagine some high-tech storage facility with a lot of security or something, but it looks like they just rented out an old prison and put a desk with a computer in the center and called it a weapons storage bunker. Not good. Cable verifies that the weaponry for Bone Machine did in fact come from here, but the security log says it was checked out by John Cable. He's being set up.
Contents assigned out by John T. Cable.
Robocop comes in and says he'll arrest Cable, and Cable runs. Robo shoots at him and he surrenders. He calls him by name, which causes Robo to pause, so I guess he's suspected he was his partner but wasn't sure. Robo's conflicting directives are freezing him up. He even starts bleeding from his nose. I really like this scene, losing control of his functions, the Murphy side of his brain telling his friend to run. We get another flashback, this time to Cable getting an award in front of the police department. Murphy looks on from the back, not so thrilled, after seeing what his partner will do to take the law into his own hands, and he walks out. We see on MediaNet that the conspiracy is fully underway, with Cable being outright labeled as Bone Machine. They're already advertising the hunt for John Cable on the next episode of reality TV, and the news anchors are excited for the movie that's certainly already in the works. I swear, some of the satire in this show is really good and rings true today. Back at OCP, Damien is accusing Sarah of sabotaging OCP with a zero fatality policy just as Bone Machine appears. Suspecting the executive board will be forced to resign from the disgrace, and then Sarah and others will be able to take over. He wants in on whatever she's doing, and threatens to blackmail her with video of her meeting her husband yesterday just before he got labeled as being Bone Machine. And then Sarah goes out to visit the real Bone Machine. He's pissed off that Cable is getting credit for his work. Sarah passes him a tracking device for Robocop so he can follow Robocop to Cable and then kill Cable. Which sounds like a terrible, terrible plan, but she promises full reinstatement to the police force once the job is done. And we pan over to see that this guy Albert used to pal around with both Murphy and Cable back in the day. So I took a break for a couple days and I think I'm getting sick, so sorry if my voice sounds different. Anyway, in the flashback, we see Cable and Murphy talking about the awards ceremony. Murphy packing his locker because he's being transferred to Metro West, where we know what happens to him. Cable defends his actions before Murphy leaves. I like the tension between these characters. It's hard to get a read on if Cable is just a guy with shady morals or if he has a real darkness inside him. Murphy is obviously uncomfortable with him and feeling guilty that he didn't say anything about what Cable did, but he's also loyal to his friend and as a cop and says that he owes him. Robocop pursues Cable to the Metro South precinct where they used to work together, which is now abandoned. And still, they're just not shooting Robocop correctly. He's so small compared to everything else. So here's where I'm confused. Was the security bunker connected to Metro South and that's how Cable got here so quickly? Is that why the security bunker is an empty prison hall? Why is Murphy having flashbacks to the dialogue of the first movie at Metro West when this is a completely different precinct? I don't know what's going on.
Good work down here, Murphy. Get your armor and suit up.
I really like the little head turns he does here, good performance moment. Robocop is remembering his moments of playing chess, hearing Cable talk about the Cable maneuver when he made a sacrificing play to set up a victory, and then they start talking through the walls. Robo continues his struggle with his conflicting directives, Cable talks about how as cops they've been left behind, and decides to sacrifice himself so his partner doesn't self-destruct. And this is a strong scene. Then his ex-wife Sarah's stupid-ass plan of sending this bone machine moron to kill Cable screws up everything. Robocop was just about to shoot him, but no, Bone Machine bursts in and ruins it. Cable whips out his dual pistols and takes cover. Robocop tanks a bunch of bullets and is essentially useless because he's trying not to kill Cable. Cable is being super cool with the dual pistols until he gets locked down by Bone Machine. Robocop approaches and Bone Machine lets the rockets fly. We end up seeing the same situation as the Motor City Strangler, Cable held hostage by a madman telling Murphy to take the shot.
What are you prepared to do? I'm sorry, John.
So Robocop does shoot Cable in a pretty dark character moment, and we get to see something awesome from this, an emotional outburst from Robocop, something I've been dying to see for so long because we know he can yell, we know he can get stressed out, so I love seeing him yell and act 100% emotionally in this moment.
We win. We did what we had to do. Don't die.
Everybody dies.
Wow, this is great stuff. It's really violent, it's really dark, it's one of the darkest moments we've seen ever in anything Robocop. Cable's name is cleared in the press, and the whole thing was claimed to be an elaborate plan to bait out the real Bone Machine and catch him, with Cable being an unfortunate victim. We get a quick shot of Murphy Jr. at OCP getting a message that his father has been dead for 10 years, isn't it time to learn the truth? And down in the lab, Robo is not doing well. This guy is outright traumatized by what just happened, reliving the memory over and over. We even see him cry.
We went. We did what we had to do.
And our final scene is some doctors looking into the camera, into the eyes of John Cable, while they and Sarah begin the process of turning him into a copy of Robocop. A real Robocop 2. Credits. You know, this was a lot better than I remembered it. There's some cheap aspects to it since it's a 2001 Sci Fi Channel special, but for the most part it looks alright. I disagree with some parts of the portrayal of Murphy in his early days as a cop, but it's also really interesting to see the tension between him and his partner when he sees him doing some shady stuff. The focus on Robocop's feelings and memories is well done, and there's enough intrigue going on with OCP to keep me interested. Overall, a solid episode. I give it an 8 out of 10. Episode 2, Meltdown. MediaNet opens with a story about Robocop single-handedly destroying the last pieces of the terrorist group to bombs from the previous episode. And what a great shot. Robocop just standing there as a building explodes in front of him. We're already off to a great start. It's also great to pay attention to the news scroll at times. Rock and roll superstar Stephen Gordon surprised his fans on his Out With a Bang tour by igniting 20 pounds of dynamite he had strapped to his body. Pieces of Gordon continued to rain down on the frenzied crowd for several minutes after the explosion. The rest of his farewell tour has been cancelled. Oh, big surprise. MediaNet is asking the question, has Robocop become too violent? An author and specialist on Robocop is shown saying that the question isn't appropriate because he's not human, he doesn't have those emotions. Footage is shown of Commander John Cable's funeral, and his bitch of an ex-wife speaks about him. Ugh. And of course the cable networks already have a TV special ready to air. Cut to night vision? No, stealth vision. We've got stealth technology in Delta City. Someone's sneaking around the OCP labs. Edwin is at his desk working on Saint, which is shown to us in the most laughable way possible. A CGI baby face munching on bits of data. Absurd. This is Lawnmower Man levels of bad. What could a computer scientist possibly get out of observing his work like this? Suddenly, two women decloak from their stealth suits and shock Edwin with an energy gun. They start trying to steal information from Edwin's computer, looking for money, and Saint is making a frowny face and baby noises. Oh, is this it? Is this when the show starts getting really stupid? We've got 4.5 hours left. I hope they don't jump the shark too quickly. I remember that they do, though. The leader of the group has technology so silly and low budget, it's charming. She has a fully sized PC keyboard on her arm, it's awesome. And she appears to be transferring data directly to her mind because she's acting really weird. And when Edwin triggers the alarm, she can't disconnect. She hacks into the building's defense grid, she knows the password for some reason, and when all the cops arrive at the scene, the same lady from episode 1's hostage situation takes over. There will be no deadly force used here. The security forces march in, and the hackers' defense turrets start cutting the cops in half with lasers, decapitating them, blowing up cars. Wow, things are dark right away. Let's go. Robocop is on the scene. The lady hilariously screams, "No unnecessary violence!" And he breaks through the front glass. What's he gonna do against lasers, though? Get bodied, apparently. He does eventually make it through, just to get shocked by the energy guns, surrounded by invisible criminals, and he messes them up like a badass. The leader whips out a laser staff and kicks Robocop through a window, which is quite impressive, and then she stabs him in the chest with the staff. Robo is all messed up from this, and then he gets shocked again. And this sad ass-kicking by a random group of hacker chicks shows how far the world has moved on. What is an old, slow, clunky Robocop supposed to do against futuristic criminals with lasers and stealth gear? So we've got a useless Robocop getting his ass kicked, and a police force wiped out by the new zero fatality policy. Things are not looking good. Murphy Jr. stops by Cable's grave, and I guess Sarah just happens to be there. Maybe he called her? I don't know. But there's definitely a difference in how these two feel about what they've done. Sarah is unfazed, but Murphy Jr. feels no pride or joy in the situation.
We do what we have to do.
Yeah. We don't have to like it.
While he's here, he takes some time to visit his parents, and looking at his father's tombstone, he looks really angry. Still don't know why, all he did was get shot and die. Meanwhile, Robocop is back at the lab getting scolded for his reckless actions, barging into dangerous situations like he has a death wish. But he's not paying attention. All he can think about is when he killed his friend. He storms out and goes looking for Cable's body. Robo isn't the only one being scolded. Sarah is getting a good talking down to by her boss, as the zero fatality policy has crippled the city's police department and ruined the city's image for tourists, but that was her plan. The break-in is also discussed, wondering if the invisible thieves were targeting Saint or just stealing whatever technology they could grab, as their profile suggests. Damien says there was some damage to the development of Saint, but assures the CEO that there will be no problem with the launch schedule. The damage to Saint is not blamed on the invaders, rather on Robocop, but the CEO is having none of it.
Robocop, Mr. Lowe, is one of the only reasons any of us still have a job. Without him, OCP in Delta City would be in complete chaos.
In the basement, Edwin is sweeping up the glass, alone, in a neck brace, which is just really funny to me. This guy gets treated like shit. Saint needs to be delayed, but Damien says no, so this is probably going to be a disaster, right? But progress is definitely being made. I mean, look at this cool Tesla coil they have. This is some pretty advanced technology. At Cable's grave, Robocop is thinking about everything that's happened, including his current self-destructive behavior. He comes across his wife's grave and sees the roses left by his son. And then we get the big moment of seeing his own resting place, a man seeing his own grave. It's a haunting image, one that was originally supposed to be in the first film, but got cut from the script because it wasn't necessary after the amazing house sequence. It's cool that they were able to make that happen here in another context, whether or not they did it while knowing it was going to be in the first movie.
And it was an idea that we'd all talked about because it's an iconic idea. You know, oh my God, a man seeing his own grave. And the idea of a robot looking at a grave that said mercy.
And perhaps I argued to keep that scene, and Ed did too.
And I kept trying to get it in the movie.
But I can understand why Paul wouldn't want it there. Because Paul is the metaphysicist, you see. And you don't want the physical evidence of the guy that preceded Robocop, right? The physical evidence is gone. That's the whole thing. So I get it why Paul didn't want a grave.
So with that statement about why the grave scene was unnecessary, and the fact that this is essentially a straight-up copy of the emotional climax of the house scene in the movie, where Robocop punches the TV screen, why do I like its inclusion here? After some time to think about it, it's because the context is very different. I don't see this as unnecessary or as a copy. The feelings inside Murphy are quite different. This isn't the first week of Robocop being alive, piecing together memories to figure out who he is. This is Robocop after 10 years of a lonely existence, feeling forgotten and useless and horrible that he killed his friend. So whatever he's thinking when he sees his own grave, those thoughts are quite different from the ones he'd be having if this scene had happened in the original film. That's what gives it power. And now the reveal of our new cyborg, Robo-Cable. He's running on an upgraded system of what they used for the original Robocop. They've further gutted his memory and given him a second pistol so he keeps his dual-wielding style. He seems to at least remember who his bitch ex-wife is, though.
What the hell is this? Shut it off! Shut it off!
The very first thing he's sent to do is attack the OCP CEO in her car, and then he empties 100 bullets into the car and it explodes. He empties like the whole clip. Both clips in his pistol are spent. He'll have to put new clips in his pistol if he wants to fire again. and if for some reason he doesn't have any more clips, he'll have to get more, maybe from a store, or he could order some more clips from a magazine or something. The CEO is pissed and calls for the immediate removal of Robocop from the streets. Murphy Jr. says that's easier said than done, he's not just gonna accept it, so Damien suggests the use of system support. We don't know what system support is yet, but I'm sure we will soon. For now, Sarah's got a plan, and she has the CEO's blessing to do whatever it takes. Sarah sends Murphy Jr. into Cable's office to clear all his records, but turning on the computer sees that the last thing he was looking at was his dad's file. MediaNet falsely reports on Robocop going on a rampage as Robocable causes chaos around the city.
Own the video that critics are calling shocking, thought-provoking, and highly entertaining. When Robocop attacks, order now!
Many citizens are wondering just how OCP plans to deal with this robo-rampage.
So the public is now terrified of Robocop, and just when you think, hey, all he has to do is say, that's not me, I'm right here, look, I'm not doing anything, and then people would realize that it's another cyborg that looks like him. Just when you're thinking that, OCP announces that they've created a new unit that will go out and stop Robocop, and they've rescinded the Zero Fatality Act. So now Robocable gets to be seen as the solution to the problem, not the cause. I love these random civilians coming around the corner in the background and seeing this and saying, nope, we're out of here. Great detail. The captain of the officers in charge of arresting Robocop walks away in protest because Robocop is one of their own, but the rest hold the line because the OCP lady says they'll be fired, lose their pension, benefits, all that. So they open fire on him, and it's comical. He just looks like he's dancing. That's how I dance when I go out, but it's not this embarrassing. Robo scares off all the cops when they fail to stop him, and he's getting serious. Now, this is it. This is the scene I remember being so badass when I saw it as a kid. Robocop versus Robocable.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Oh, it's actually pretty lame. Just two metal dudes standing still shooting pistols at each other. They have to drop the frame rate and try to stylize it to make this look interesting. Robocop sees that innocent people are in danger from his shootout, so he dives out the window, hops in his car, and gets out of there. Cable is in pursuit of Robocop on the road, and Robocable looks pretty cool, right? The black Robocop armor is really nice. The chase itself is not very exciting though. Low budget, nothing really happening, no destruction. Oh, they crash through a stack of empty cans. This is Future War levels of stunts. Robocop drives off the edge into the river, Cable loses his signal, the chase is over. Murphy Jr. is now looking into his father's records from his own office. His personal password is Ellen, that's nice. But even after getting clearance, he's blocked again because the files are restricted to project staff only. The session is immediately terminated. After a ridiculous commercial for a cartoon about a cyborg police officer that fights homeless ninjas, we get an independent journalist, what would today be some dirty, clout-chasing loser on Tickle Talker or whatever it's called, sneaking into Robocop's precinct looking for news, desperately looking for anything to say.
Computer database of some kind, presumably where Robocop would store his data. What kind of data, we can't say. How much, we don't know. But if Robocop has data, that's where it would be.
This show is pretty funny sometimes, I gotta admit. But Robocop is still alive. He emerges from the river, but he's messed up. His GPS system is offline, and, well, that's all we're told. So I guess he's lost? In Cable's resting area, Sarah is admiring her creation, and Damien talks up Saint. It's already in charge of the building's environmental controls. Ooh, computer-run air conditioning, very impressive. Damien is sure that Robocop is still alive, and now he knows who's coming after him. That puts them in a bad position. So Damien has decided to bring in the mysterious system support, and Sarah insists on sending Robocable with them. Now this is hilarious. Robocop in a giant coat trying to walk inconspicuously through a market. That's brilliant and stupid at the same time. He's looking for a replacement processor in the local underground markets, but he's so outdated. I kinda love this scene, I don't know why. It's got kind of a Blade Runner feel to it. A little girl follows him out of curiosity, and Robocop actually hides and pops out at her, playing tag. These are the moments that make me like this miniseries. This is the kind of character stuff we just didn't get in the movie sequels. Seeing him be so thoughtful and even playful with an innocent child is what sets him apart from something like the Terminator. He's not just a machine learning to act human, he's a human trapped in a machine, at war with his own programming. And these moments show that the creators of the miniseries had a good understanding of who Alex Murphy is under the armor. Finally, he walks away in some wonderful imagery suggesting his superhero status, the coat hanging like Superman's cape, walking hand in hand with this child to find her mother. Staying here in old Detroit, we see system support is coming in with Cable in the lead. They mean business and they make it clear.
Do not touch anything, do not drink anything, do not eat anything. This town is a disease and we are the cure.
In Metro South, Robocop is trying to repair his communication system so he can reach out to Cable, but he's been followed by the Stealth Lady, and he's no match for her energy weapons. It's revealed that the girl is the daughter of this lady, so Robocop doesn't fear the situation too much as he's been showing her kindness. Outside, system support is gearing up for action. If only Damien would stop interrupting.
Carver!
Carver, what's your status?
We're about to deploy. You have the Guzzi 9000 pulse rifle, 60 kilowatts of raw robo-stopping power. It is non-lethal to humans, we think, so don't screw around. Carver!
Carver, what's your status?
We're moving into the city.
They've got anti-cyborg weapons, and the captain is making it clear that while Cable is there, he works for them. Inside, Robocop is talking to the lady about the situation, and they get into a philosophical discussion.
You can't go there.
I serve Delta City.
Delta City wants to kill you.
I protect its citizens.
Protect them from what?
I uphold the law.
You carried out policy. You were a tool. It's gone. Past doesn't matter.
The past is all I have. I don't know your name.
Anne, what's yours? Good luck.
Bye.
You hear those nice musical tones that draw on the original soundtrack? That's a really nice touch. Things are getting too serious. How about a commercial break?
Atomo! Atomo is cool. I love Atomo. Atomo is cool. Atomo is my friend. Atomo is my best friend. I love Atomo. Atomo is my god. Tomo, 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 Tomo. Atomo, Tomo, 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 Tomo. Give me a Tomo or hold my breath and die. You're a bad mommy if you don't buy me a Tomo. You don't love me. I want a Tomo. I need a Tomo. I am a Tomo.
Boom! System support is messing up the town, and Robocop tunes into Cable's signal. He calls him to say they should meet one-on-one, and they head out. And the scene ends in this really bad, totally unnecessary FX shot. Murphy Jr. is still trying to access his dad's file and uses Sarah's login to do it. I don't know how he knows her password, I must have missed that. In his father's archives, he sees a letter to Bob Morton about Murphy being the perfect candidate, and the wait is now over, as we fade out of the scene. Cable is now at Metro South, ready for his showdown with Robo. So Cable can switch to armor-piercing rounds, amongst many others, and Robocop should have been ready for that because according to this show, he can do the same damn thing. Cable kicks his ass for a while. Anne and her daughter are getting away from the danger, but they left her Otomo toy behind and the girl runs back to get it. She has some never-before-seen speed tech, which is quite bizarre given they're poor, and if poor people can zip around at super speed, then shouldn't everybody have this ability? Robo and Cable are duking it out in what is honestly a pretty decent action scene for a TV budget program 20 years ago.
You're a cop. I'm a cop. My name is Alex Murphy.
Robo broadcasts his memories to Cable, showing him who he truly is.
I'm sorry, John.
With Cable shut down, Robocop makes his way out and sees the girl. He says it's not safe and she hides as system support rolls in.
Why are you standing there? Do something! Asshead.
Oh man, why didn't they start with that? That approach worked really well. Robo tries to get the girl to leave him because he can't protect her, and then she ends up getting shot by the possibly non-lethal electrical charge. Cable starts waking up and we're wondering what's gonna happen. Is he gonna fight for the good guys or get back to work? Robo desperately tries to make his way to the girl to protect her from the gunfire, when really you'd think he would want to try to move away from her. What are you doing, idiot? Anne is fighting off multiple soldiers and an obvious stunt double that they tried to hide with pulled back cameras. No, Robocop, don't crawl towards the child while you're being shot at. What are you doing? Anne gets taken down with shock sticks. Robocop is almost finished with his plan of apparently collapsing and crushing a little girl, and Cable is still trying to wake up. This scene is going on for way too long. So much slow motion, but not real slow motion. They're just dropping the frame rate to Callisto Protocol levels to stretch the scene out. Cable snaps out of it and comes to the rescue. Alright, now we have Murphy and Cable back together as partners. Pretty cool, pretty cool. MediaNet announces the deaths of both cyborg officers with no evidence at all, and the CEO of OCP is super pissed at Damien for deploying system support without permission, and he has been disavowed. He's fired, and all blame for recent events will fall on him. Damien is not happy. He sends Edwin home and uses Saint's access to environmental controls to raise the barometric pressure and temperature of the executive room, while everyone is inside discussing his replacement. And just like that, the entire executive level of OCP is wiped out. Before the episode ends, we see the rest of Murphy Jr. looking into his dad's records, and Robocop is actually his father! Our two cyborg heroes walk off into the night together, Cable supporting his injured partner, the two of them ready to face the world together, and we end with a quote from Henry David Thoreau, which is fine, I guess. And that's episode 2. Again, not bad. Setting aside some cheap stuff here and there, a lame car chase, an underwhelming first confrontation between Cable and Robo, there was a lot of stuff to like here. The fight in Metro South, pushing through walls, the underground market stuff, Murphy's self-destructive attitude, trying to get Cable to remember who he is, Damien's revenge against OCP. I may rate this one even higher than the last and give it an 8.5. It would have gotten a 9 if some of the action scenes were better, but there's a good number of jokes that land, and there's so much good character stuff. I like this episode a lot. However, finishing this episode left me with a sinking feeling in my gut, a feeling that things are about to get really bad. Where do you go from here? I don't remember much about what happens next, but what I do remember is not good. So, in case the rest of the series goes down the toilet, let's just cherish the time we've had here, enjoying a cool look into the world of Robocop and spending some quality time with this amazing character. Check back soon for part 2 of my Prime Directives breakdown, like and subscribe and ring the bell for notifications, and we'll see where this goes.